I've got a bad for you, baby, I just can't explain. What you're doing is crazy, yeah, just say my name.
Lockee.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So thanks for joining me for this interview.
No
It's a
problem.
pleasure.
Pleasure to join you this morning.
Yeah. And so I mean it's been rough because obviously you released your EP pretty much as lockdown
Mm.
came to, right?
Yeah, it was a bit of a funny time, and like I sort of had planned it for that sort of June, July sort of area without realizing obviously what was going to happen, and
Yeah.
I decided just to go through with it. It was going to be something to sort of keep people company throughout the lockdown. So yeah, yeah, just unfortunately the circumstances meant that we couldn't do any sort of EP launches or gigs to sort of promote it, but yeah, it went all right in the end.
Yeah. Before we get into the EP, I just want to take it back in time. So have you pretty much been a musician since like you can remember, or was this kind of like something you found later on in your life?
Yeah, it's interesting because like a lot of people like you obviously hear the classic thing where like picked up an instrument at 2 years old and sort of like a child prodigy. I'm certainly not that. Like I picked up a guitar. I always liked music obviously as a kid, but I picked up a guitar when I was 12 years old and like just didn't put it down. Like ever since then, it sort of like changed my life in a way, and I sort of realized very quickly that that's what I wanted to do, and it's been like that ever since. And very quick, like it was only a couple of years after that where I sort of discovered songwriting and we started to write my own songs. Obviously the first sort of batch of songs you write in your first few years are a little bit crappy, but as you churn through the crappy songs, you find sort of the good stuff. And I was really, really enjoying, playing guitar, writing songs, started singing later on as well. And, I'm continuing to work on my craft every single day. It's just been like a long journey over all these years.
Yeah, for sure. Did you feel like everyone around you was like pretty supportive, or were they kind of like just give up, get a day job kind of thing? Or did you feel like everyone in your life was like, no, you should go for this?
Yeah, well, luckily I've got a super supportive family, so they're like
Okay, that's
they were
good.
they were 100% in on the music thing, and there was never like growing up through high school. I didn't necessarily have like a clear path in terms of what exactly I wanted to do with it. I knew that my main passion was performing on stage, and that still is my biggest passion. And hopefully we can get back to live music soon.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, talking about the sort of the pressure thing. I mean, sometimes from at school and stuff from teachers, and how like when you're in like year 11 and 12, you get like universities, people from unis come
Yeah.
in to like give you the little spiels, like come to college, it's really fun and cool. And I was sort of like never really listened to those because I just knew I wanted to sort of do my own thing with my own music. And yeah, I never felt pressured. Because I think when you have like a passion so well defined like that, nothing's going to waver that. And for me, for the past 12 years, it's just been music like the whole way, and nothing's ever like I've never thought of quitting. I mean, I've thought of like doing other things around it. Obviously, it's tricky to sort of just make a living just purely off music straight from the get go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just always been a consistent thing, and I'm so lucky to have a great family and great friends, and people really really supportive of what I'm doing, which I think is so important, especially as a solo artist, because it can
Yeah.
be a lonely place at times. So yeah, absolutely crucial to have a support group around you. That's for sure.
Yeah. I noticed you recently changed your bio to in it for the long run.
Yeah.
And you kind of did that as like both just like for a bit of like, I don't know, was it like a self psychological thing of like, I am doing this for the long run and I'm going to tell you every day that I'm doing this for the long run?
In a way, and I know it's like it's like a stereotypical thing to say, but yeah, that's legit what it is. It's almost just to myself that like everything that I make, it's all part of this bigger. It's all every little post, every little like story that I've put up is just like a tiny puzzle piece as a part of this bigger story. And I never like to think that I've got it figured out. I don't think any musician has it figured out in terms of
Yeah,
what the
no.
formula is. There isn't a formula. That's the thing,
No.
right? So I think, especially in the day and age we live in now, I'm just not necessarily looking for the perfect song or the perfect post or the perfect video. I'm sort of just aware that everything that I'm doing is going to be contributing to this bigger thing that I'm building. And I'm really glad. Like I've only sort of like gotten to that mindset within the past sort of like 12 months, I guess, actually, realizing that, you know, you don't have to get caught up on all those little things. And especially again, today's day and age, it's so easy to get caught up on in all the numbers of social
Yeah.
media. It's just so vital. If I was to give a piece of advice to like any upcoming musician, it's just like, remember, just patience. This is such a long journey. You know, there's never a quick sort of, you know, straightforward fix to it. It's all about putting in the effort in the long run. So yeah, that Instagram bio is, or every time I see it, it's like in it for the long run. It's like, yeah, that's it. Don't have to
It's
be worried
like,
about all those little things.
yeah, it's like a daily reminder in a way, which is good.
100%.
I was
Yeah.
also going to say your social media is very well done. It's very captivating. You're very consistent, but you don't overdo it. I know I sound like a full stalker right now, but I'm very like, I like to see how people do their social media because like that helps me be like, oh, what should I do for social media? And then it's like, that's a really good idea. Did you just like start doing it and like just got the hang of it, or have you been taught have you been given tips and tricks on how to use social media? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, no, well, I'm exactly like you. Like,
Okay.
I always find it really interesting sort of looking at other people's profiles, and I'm always learning from other people. Yeah, I mean, social media has always been one of my biggest passions as well, and sort of digital marketing and all that. And, you know, I've never studied it or anything, but I just find it all really interesting in terms of, you know, what content sort of performs well, this and that, this and that. And it's been something that you sort of just trial and error along the way.
Yeah.
And you know what sort of things are performing well and what aren't. And you know the state, again, I mean, we could talk, you know, for hours and hours about the state of social media, but like just for one particular example, we're seeing on Instagram how like the, you know, photo dump sort of style posts where you just drop like 10 photos and they're just like crappy like camera roll, they perform better than anything that I post. It's amazing. And it's like, okay. So what I do now is like usually I'm pretty like clean with my phone. You know, I don't like to have hundreds of photos. Now I do, because like this random photo that I took of a duck on a street could be, you know, part of my October photo dump or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, the social media thing's interesting. And, you know, I'm trying to work hard on TikTok as well. TikTok's just nuts because, like, you never know when something will just take off. And it's happened to me a couple of times where just a random post will just sort of, like, get, like, you know,
Yeah,
a million views out of nowhere.
I saw that you had some random canoe kayak thing go viral on TikTok. That's really random.
It was so silly because, like, and it's so funny too because, like, I've spent like the last year on TikTok essentially posting like once a day, like various sort of music things and, you know, a couple of sort of things around that as well, mainly music related content. And then the one that took off was just some, like, I was just watching Olympics and just like made some like dumb, like 5-second joke. And literally it got like millions, it got millions of views. Phineas, Billie Eilish's brother, liked it.
Are you
I was
serious?
like, oh God. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, it's doing the rounds. And I was like, wow, is this what I'm going to be remembered for?
Not
that was
your
a bit
music,
crazy.
just your canoe kayak joke that you made.
And
Like,
now I'm like, maybe I should change career to just like some guy that takes TikToks of like various sporting events and just making crappy jokes. Yeah.
but I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, even if that blew up, it takes people to your account. It, you know, it brings some kind of audience
True.
in. So at the end of the day, it's a positive.
Absolutely. And again, it goes into the long run thing, right? Like at the end of the day, no one's actually going to remember that, like this kayak. I mean, no one's going to remember who I am, you know, after just watching that. But yeah, you got to remember that. It's part of that bigger picture. So yeah, again, it just ties into that. But yeah, I mean, social media, it's a wonderful thing. It's a crazy thing. I spend hours, you know, each week sort of racking my brain, sort of, you know, finding the right things to post. But at the same time, I do have to remember myself, the long run thing, and also just trial and error. Like some things will work, some things won't work. And, you know, I don't have it figured out. We're all just trying our best. You know what I mean?
Do you find it hard to kind of like put your like personal life and then because obviously being an independent musician, you kind of can be all consumed by like your profile, your music. Do you find it hard to delegate that time, or do you find sometimes you're like on social media like planning posts for too long and you're like, I just need to step back a little bit because this is just too much?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's because, especially as a solo artist, I mean, the approach that I've taken for sort of, I guess, this project that I've been doing for the past 18 months or so is that I wanted to make it very personal the whole way through. And like, You know, I'm even sharing sides of myself that you probably wouldn't necessarily think to. Like, I'm not just sort of a solo artist that's sort of faceless and, you know, is sort of just like releasing music and is very sort of mysterious, which is totally cool. Like, there's so many great artists that can do that. But I decided from the get-go that I was going to be completely organic. And I figured that that was, especially in 2021, I think that's the best way to do it, to be completely yourself. And again, it's a very
Interesting.
stereotypical thing to stereotypical thing to sort of, you know, just, you know, be yourself and blah blah blah. But it's so true because, you know, I think the days are gone of being super mysterious or trying to sort of be a certain you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, just sort of fit into a certain, like, I feel like with sort of celebrity artists, there's like certain almost categories of like, yeah, the acoustic singer songwriter guy, you know, the pop star singer, blah blah blah. Like, because there's like so many like organic creators now, people want just you
Dimension.
and just what you do. So yeah, that's sort of my thought process when heading into this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And you were known as kind of Atlas Eyes, and you kind of said in your Indie Diaries podcast, which I've had a bit of a listen to, that you kind of decided to move away from that and go to Lockee to feel more connected to that name. So it sounds like it's very important for you to like be connected to the art that you're making, and you don't like having that distance. Would that be correct? Like, you like feeling 100% connected to it.
Yeah, I think so. And again, actually, yeah, that's I mean, perfectly put. Because like with Atlas Eyes, like that was almost it was almost like I was hiding behind a thing. And I think at the time when I initially started the project, I was like, yeah, Atlas Eyes. I felt good with it. But over the time, it felt weird saying, hey guys, it's Atlas Eyes. That never felt comfortable to me. And again, like for some artists, that is cool to have like a sort of different alias to sort of go under. But for me, I was just like, wanted just something that was just me. And, you know, I was going to have my full name Lachlan Rayside, but I was like, it'd just be easier to have Lockee, like just super simple, Lockee. And yeah, just like put my whole sort of me as a human into it rather than sort of making it this pretty project and all that sort of thing. Just being incredibly organic, as I mentioned, the whole way through, which yeah, has just been a key thing for me the whole way through.
For sure. I also like that you don't just stick to like some formal structure, kind of what you were talking about with like older celebrity artists, where like, you know, sometimes you'll put out covers or you'll just put out an original song on YouTube. Then obviously you have your EP, but it's like, I don't get the impression that you feel restrained by like, okay, I'm only putting out a single on this date, or I'm only putting out an EP on this date. It's like, you seem really playful with your singing and your instrumental stuff. Would that be right?
Yeah, and that's, you know what, I think a good thing, I think about if I was a visitor looking at my page, am I entertained? And like just, well, not just my Instagram page, but like everything, all my sort of content is a sort of a holistic thing. Am I sort of entertained? And you know, that's why, yeah, I am trying my best to sort of keep that variety there. Like I've done this thing called roommate sessions where me and my roommate, well, my previous roommate now, he's my drummer and we would just do these little 60-second sort of like jam sessions, really really fun. And then I'll do like the acoustic cover things, and that's the thing as well. I never wanted to sort of like restrict myself to like one sort of lane. And again, that might be like the wrong decision. Like, I don't know, because like maybe that might be, sometimes I get worried that maybe I'm alienating some of my audience. You know, if I've got like a bunch of YouTube subscribers that are here for, you know, acoustic covers, and I do a bunch of those, but I might only do like 1 or 2 a month, and then I've got a different kind of content. But I think at least now, while I'm still relatively small and growing myself as an artist, I think it's important that I sort of stay multi-layered in terms of the content that I'm releasing, you know, do some stuff that's a bit different. You know, just recently I've started live streaming video games on Twitch.
Oh, nice.
And again, I'm just like obviously who's going to be following me for video games, but it's not necessarily for people to watch good video game content. It's more so just for a chance for me to sort of connect to the audience. So yeah, it's fun. It's good fun.
Yeah, I think I always praise people who try and create diverse content, because I think in today's world of, you know, we have so much content now everywhere. It's like sometimes it's good to just reach different kind of audiences, and I think it's quite effective, really.
Mm.
Going into your indie diaries a little bit, so did you kind of decide to do that as a kind of another way to diversify your content, or were you just always interested in like talking to people about their music, or where did that kind of come about?
Yeah, yes to both things there. So I actually had a podcast that I had a couple of years ago called the Young People Podcast.
Oh, okay.
And really simply, it was just me having conversations. It was me and a mate of mine. We ran the podcast and we had conversations with just various young people that were doing exciting, creative things. Not necessarily in a music sense, just in anything. And, you know, just sort of focusing on, you know, the exciting sort of passions that young people were pursuing. And Indie Music Diaries sort of was almost like a sequel to that in a way. I was sort of doing that podcast, and when I started up my music thing, I was like, oh, this is fun, this is cool. And of course, I know so many musicians that I've sort of met over the years, and you know, you have, especially when you're at gigs and stuff, you have so many great conversations with musicians about, you know, music and songwriting and everything. And I was like, this should be a podcast. And with Indie Music Diaries, like I wanted to make sure it was a musician talking to a musician rather than like an interviewer talking to a musician, just to have that sort of different sort of dynamic there, and, you know, less of sort of just like a straight interview and more of just like a musical discussion, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, I mean, it's been really, really fun, but yeah, it's been a great way for me to sort of, and this is what I'm actually doing just recently, like I'm now sort of taking a pause actually on the guest side of things and making it more of like a personal sort of, more of like a diary entry. That's what I'm referring to it now, where it's like, it's a chance for me to talk about, you know, my experience with songwriting and stuff like that. And again, I think a podcast is a really great way to sort of connect on a really personal and deep level because it is that long form style of content. So yeah, the podcast is just a great way for me to, establish that deeper connection. I think it's really, really good to have.
I like that. And I also like the kind of diary entry episodes. When I listened to your one about rebranding and stuff, I was like, I should have listened to this, because I had a whole issue with rebranding something, and it was such a pain in the ass to change my name on things. And when I listened to your episode, I was like, okay, so I'm not the only one who's had issues with trying to change usernames and getting, like, Instagram, I think it took about 6 months to change your name on something. I was like, are you for real? Like,
yeah, it's an absolute pain. It's an absolute pain. And yeah, like I had to go through that, and that's why I thought I'd do an episode on it, to maybe help out people like you that are maybe going through similar things, because social media, especially when changing your brand, can be a bit of a hectic time.
It's a pain.
And I feel like I'm falling and flying at the same time. Oh, I wonder what your mother would say. I wonder what your sister would think, and I wonder what your father would do if I told them I got crushed on you.
In terms of your EP, I want to talk about that. So, Crush on You, were you always thinking that those songs were going to be together on an EP? Were you thinking they might just be singles? How did you think about that?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting, because under the name Atlas Eyes, my previous name, I released 3 of those 4 songs on the EP as singles. One we're talking at the time, and then a few months later I did Bedroom Disco, and then did Wilderness in Your Eyes earlier this year.
Yeah.
And then when it came to changing my name, I decided, you know, do I just leave these songs up as singles and just have them there? And I also had Crush on You already recorded as well to the song. And I figured these songs sort of feel like the Atlas Eyes era, I guess, if you like. And there's only 4 songs recorded, but I was like, rather than sort of just leaving them up there, just sort of looking a bit random from, you know, previous years, I'll just package them all as an EP, call it the Crush on You EP. And it was sort of there as like my first sort of just, you know, stabbing the flag into the ground sort of thing, just to say, hey, here's me and here's some music. And, you know, it's very much like that Crush New EP is very much just like sort of just a taster of like what's to come. It's just, and I like it, as I thought it'd be good as an EP as well, because it sort of has some different sort of styles of songs that will sort of represent what the bigger sort of range of music there will be, you know, that indie rock stuff and then the acoustic sort of folky stuff. So yeah.
I really liked how like playful and like kind of, it really took me back to like teen nostalgia of like, you know, falling in love for the first time and like having crushes on people and being like just so blinded by being young and dumb and
Yeah.
what was it really like? Did you write those songs when you actually were in that headspace, or was it kind of a hindsight thing of like, oh god, I used to think like that? And how did you write them and stuff?
Yeah, no, the songs that were pretty recent actually, and yeah, it was more of a
Okay.
hindsight thing. I was thinking back to those times, and I think with this EP, with this sort of batch of songs, I wanted to be really unapologetic and not hold back.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of ambitious to release your first song, you know, titled "Crush on You," and you know, it's same with some of the other songs as well. Like, "Why Aren't We Talking All the Time" is like that in itself. The title, "Why Aren't We Talking All the Time?" Like, basically, the whole EP is just about being just a massive simp. But that's it. I wanted to do that. I wanted to, because being a teenager is just nuts. And you look
Yeah.
back at it, and you're like, what the heck are we all doing then? So I sort of just wanted to encapsulate that and just how ridiculous it all is, you know, and write these songs about these like sort of over exaggerated, very melodramatic feelings, and I also like how that was sort of my first EP. I don't know if I will be doing this moving forward, but I sort of like the idea that maybe chronologically, when I start releasing my music, it'll almost age with me, where like my first EP is like my teenage stuff. And then, you know, coming up, I've actually got some stuff coming out sort of like early next year, which will be sort of like as you get into your 20s and sort of growing up and getting old. So I like the idea that maybe my music's sort of going to grow with me as we go. So it's just getting that teenage sort of crazy stuff out of the way first, though.
Yeah. No, it was funny because when I listened to Why Are We Talking All the Time, and then I think I heard you talking about it either on Indie Diaries or maybe on something else, and being like, you know, it's not realistic, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, screw you. Why aren't we talking all the time? Like, I kind of, it's just like, it's a very honest, but kind of that thing that you don't want to tell people because it makes you sound a bit crazy, where you're like, no, like, I want to be talking to the person that I'm obsessed with love with all the time. Like,
yeah,
I liked the honesty. I do appreciate it because I feel like people get embarrassed. Like, they're like, oh, I'm not telling people that.
Yeah, 100%. And again, when you're a teenager, it is like that. Like, you get that sense. Like, and again, a big inspiration. And I think I don't know if I explicitly reference it in any songs, but like MSN. Like, I'm sure you remember. Like, I don't know if you remember MSN from back in the day, and like really early, like MySpace, Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Those sort of, you know, I used to spend like every night in that, just like chatting to friends, and then chatting to that, you know, checking if the girl that you like, that you have a crush on, is online. It's it's like a crazy time. And yeah, that one we're talking all the time feeling is very much a teenage sort of high emotions, you know, sort of feeling. And actually, funnily enough, with one we're talking all the time, that the title is the first thing that came first. I was like, that was very punchy, and I was like, I'm going to write a song called Why Aren't We Talking All the Time, just because it's so like, it's just, I don't know, it's just it's almost funny. I almost look at those songs and sort of laugh in a way. So yeah.
Yeah, I like the self-humility, you know, you're willing to like just be open and honest.
Yeah.
Did you, like, when you released those songs, even when you released some of them initially, did you kind of feel like vulnerable or like, oh my God, is the person gonna like know that this is about them? Because I feel like whenever I've tried to write a song about someone else, I'm like, oh God, if they ever heard this, like, I feel like they would know that I'm writing about them.
Yeah, I like to think that maybe the songs are not as sort of just blurry enough where like the people maybe can't figure out if it's them. But but I guess it's more just sort of, I guess, about the general sort of feeling, and that you sort of get, you know, crush on you one we're talking all the time. Those songs are sort of more about just that general sort of, you know, having that teenage crush sort of feeling. And yeah, I actually with those songs as well. I mean, like it's especially when you're a teenager, it's almost like, yeah, like I remember like when I was like in year 7, I used to have like a crush on like a different girl every week almost. It was almost like you know what I mean? Like is that crazy?
Yeah,
crazy sort of,
it's a very shallow, like, surface level thing where it's like, oh my God, like they like the same song as you, so therefore you're getting married. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I can't imagine anyone getting married to any of these songs. Maybe Wilderness in Your Eyes, but yeah. Oh wow.
No, I'm very excited to see how your music, I guess, ages with you. What kind of, like, when you think about, when you visualize the future in your career and stuff, like, do you have a very clear idea of what success looks like for Lockee musician? Like, is there something there for you?
Playing on stages, absolutely 100%. Playing on stages, big or small, that's just like every single, like I think about it every day. I really do. And it's like, not in like an sort of obsessive way, but now it's a very realistic way where we want to make sure that every single day I'm doing something to sort of bring myself close to that goal. Obviously a bit of a tricky climate now to sort of thinking that that is a realistic thing, but I know that hopefully soon enough we can get back to sort of a world where live music is back and pumping. So
Yeah.
I want to be like releasing good music. I want to be playing live shows, and I want to make sure that the online content, like that's an important part of it. It's not everything, but it's such a big part of it, you know. So for me, you know, constantly engaging online with people, because that's such a massive thing. But yeah, I mean, the playing on stage is like, I know I keep saying it, but like that's just number one for me. So when I think of success, it's about that. And, you know, having my band around me as well, and really having the most sort of engaging and energetic live show. You know, I've only gotten to perform like a few live shows. Like I really haven't even gotten started. So I don't want to be like over promising too much. Like you can't expect fireworks or anything. But
no, but you're excited, like you're ready to go on stage. I
love it so much. Like I love it so much. Like there's like no other feeling. Like everyone has that thing that sort of gives them that feeling, and playing on stage is you can't match it. So yeah, I just can't wait to get back.
Yeah, I definitely, when I was listening to the EP, I definitely got like an idea of like what your stage presence would be like. They're very energetic songs, but like, I don't know, I feel like it would just be very like fun. I don't know, I just get the impression that you would be very fun on stage.
Yeah, 100%. And
did you find when you did perform those few times that were you like really nervous at all, or did it feel really natural and you got into it?
Both. And you know, even though I talk about how I'm excited about it and everything, I was nervous. And it's funny because I don't usually get nervous when I'm playing on stage, but like with this, I actually did. And I think that was more so because, you know, these were like my first couple gigs performing these songs, and it was sort of a new environment. Like I've played heaps of gigs before in sort of different bands and filling in, you know, doing stuff, but this was different because this was me, and this is sort of my solo project, and people were seeing this, you know, it's almost online. You got that little bit of a barrier. You're an arm's length sort of virtually with people. Yeah. But when you're live playing at a bar, it's like there. And if you make a mistake, if you screw up, it's like people are there to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's how I'm sort of taking it in these early few gigs. And I'm like still going to be rusty but I'm hoping just to sort of, you know, hopefully when we can get back to it, just sort of have those consistent gigs going just to get that experience up, because I know I'm just going to keep sort of improving with each one. And again, that's sort of the mindset that I'm taking in with these live shows, that it's not, you know, you can't just rock up to my next show after lockdown and be like, yeah, it's the best thing ever. Like it's probably going to be kind of crappy. But that's the thing. It's like I'm still going to enjoy it regardless. But yeah, it's going to be work in progress for sure to get it to sort of really where I want it to be, which is like a really top tier sort of level show.
Yeah. In terms of the sound of your music, do you feel like that will change a lot over the years? Obviously you never know, but or do you feel like it's more just the content and the lyrics that are going to shift with you as a musician? Like, do you want to keep that indie rock and then I guess a bit of folky as well? Like, is that kind of how you see your genre going?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love this question because there's so much to dive into. And like, I'll tell you now, and I've decided I don't even care if I tell this to people, but I've honestly got like 30 to 40 songs written that I'm like really happy with, that I want to release all of them now. Okay. And none of them are like, I only have like a handful recorded, but like, so with those songs, and they're quite diverse in sort of their styles. And at the moment, I'm sort of going through the process of sort of picking, you know, which ones should I sort of be releasing in what sort of order, and just getting that out. But yeah, there's quite a diverse range, as I sort of touched on a little bit before. Like the acoustic folk stuff is very heavy in there as well. That's always been, that's sort of my roots, I guess. That's sort of where I started playing the acoustic guitar. The indie rock stuff is so much fun, and I feel like the EP is very much that sort of indie style. You know, I grew up listening to bands like Arctic Monkeys, The Strokes, The Kooks, sort of a lot of those like British indie rock bands too. That was some of my early inspirations as well. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff is majority sort of pop songs, and you know, not just sort of your stereotypical four chord pop song. But I like to sort of think of my music as like a it's pop music, but sort of with that with that little indie rock edge or with that funk edge. Like I'm really into a lot of funk music, and then there's some songs that are more sort of almost jazzy inspired, but all the way through that, I think they're all pop songs. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned there, yeah, I think the lyrics, you know, the meanings behind the songs will sort of be shifting, and you know, I'm finding that even just recently, especially being in lockdown, I'm starting to write songs that are a lot more sort of mature. And you know, I'm 25 now. I'm sort of coming to the stage of my life where I'm not really in that hectic sort of, you know, early 20s excitement stage now. I'm sort of really getting settled into my 20s and writing songs. Again, I'm still super young, but I sound like I'm like an experienced sort of wise man, but like I'm starting to write songs that are a bit more slower and a bit more like I really recently put up a song on my YouTube for like, you know, just about mental health, and that was a bit.
Yeah, I saw that. It was,
yeah.
I felt like that was a really kind of genuine thing, because again, like I said, where you're just willing to like put up an original, it doesn't need to come from a place of like, oh, I'm trying to like market myself as a brand or like get this single out and it's a launch. Like it just was a very genuine moment where you were like, this is a song that I wrote because I was feeling like this and I want to show it to you. Is that something that you really want to continue throughout like your career? Is that important to you?
I think so. Yeah, it won't be something that I'll be doing all the time, but yeah, I think there'll be songs here and there where I have moments like that. Like that song was interesting, and you know, I guess its working title is "It's Always Scary in Your Head," and I remember like I wrote it super quick. It was like such an organic sort of thing that I just wrote because it was just my own thoughts, just like I was sort of just jotting down things, and I knew like almost instantly that I was like going to share it. And I didn't even think about, you know, going to a studio, recording it, you know, going through the months of like, you know, preparing promotion. I was like, I'm just going to like film like a video. I don't really care if it's amazing quality, and sort of get it out there. And, you know, I got a lot of like really kind messages from like friends and family, like really touched sort of by the song. And like, and yeah, it was like one of my most sort of like organic, authentic moments. And I, especially during this time, I think it was important that I released it just to sort of, you know, just help out some of my friends and family a little bit who are sort of, I mean, we're all sort of feeling that way, and reminding them that it's okay to sort of feel anxious, and you know, mental health is such a huge thing. It's so important to bring light to that, especially during these times. So yeah, I think it's important to have sometimes those organic songs that maybe you just throw up as on YouTube or SoundCloud, and it's really, I think it's really exciting when an artist does that, when it's just like, oh, this isn't, you know, a big flashy Spotify, you know, release.
Yeah.
It's just like, I wrote a song, here it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely keeps you human to people, and it keeps that audience fan connection to artists. I really like it. And I remember you saying about how you wrote the song on an acoustic guitar, so to stay true to the pre-production, you needed to like stick to that same instrument when you like performed it and recorded it. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That's something I do. Yeah.
Is that something that's important to you, to like kind of just like how it's created kind of needs to follow through to the end product?
Yeah, I think so. And that's what I like to do with a lot of my songs now. You know, I'm with a lot of my production, at least what I've done so far, is that it's never been very different from how I originally wrote it. And, you know, I think some of the best songs are the ones that, you know, can just be played on like just an acoustic guitar and vocals, or just on like a keyboard and vocals, that as a song, like from a songwriting point of view, the chords, the melody can sort of carry themselves without all this sort of flashy production. So yeah, that's something that has always been a mantra for me with my music, in terms of writing really solid songs that sort of can stand really, you know, can stand on their own, and then utilize all that fancy flashy production to elevate it to that next level, and just help make it express it in the best way possible. So yeah, and again, for me, it's guitar. Like the guitar's always been my main instrument, whether it's acoustic or electric. Some of the songs are very much electric guitar driven as well. So yeah, that's always been a key thing for me, that's for sure.
Yeah. Have you kept the same band members from those who were with you with the Atlas Eyes to now? Is that?
Yeah. There's been the same guys. I've got my sister on bass,
Nice.
which is always easy. Just call her up and get her to learn some songs. And yeah, I mean, it might be shifting and changing. And at the moment, like from the Atlas Eyes gigs that we did, it was just like a trio thing, where like me on guitar and vocals, and you know, bass and drums. And you know, I'm hoping to expand that more. Like I think ideally with my live setup, you'd want you know, maybe some keyboard and vocals. I'd love to get some more female vocals involved, and then maybe like a second guitarist as well, just to cover some more guitar stuff. So yeah, it's been the same band, and I think that's helped as well. You know, even though I am a solo artist, having that core sort of band that really has a connection to the songs, rather than, you know, just hiring just some random sort of, you know, session musicians to come in and learn the songs. That way you've got some people, you know, and all these people that I'm getting in are like friends, or, you know, connected to me in some way, friends and family. So I think that's really, really important, to bring on people who actually care about the project, and, you know, they want to see me they want to help me succeed. And, you know, I'm like so thankful for everyone who contribute, not just the musicians, but like all the people that I've worked with, producers and videographers and photographers, everyone sort of, that's one of my favorite things, is being working as an independent musician, is collaborating with others. It's so great. And, you know, it's a really nice sort of connected ecosystem. We're all helping each other out. So, yeah, I really love it.
Yeah, that's a really lucky thing to kind of be aware that you have, because I think sometimes being an independent musician, people can feel really isolated. They don't feel like they really, because it's not like you have a solid team maybe starting off. Like, you're just kind of relying on people that you might know, and it can be quite a lonely experience early on to get started. So it's really good that you can have that kind of safe space of people where you know that they've got you and you've got them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to sort of what I mentioned earlier in the interview about like having that supportive, you know, base of family and friends. And, you know, and even if you don't necessarily have, I mean, unfortunately, there are people that where family and friends, you know, they might not be as supportive. And, you know, I mean, from the gigs that I have been to, especially, you know, in the Sydney area, and sort of I'm up here on the Central Coast, and even up in Newcastle, like you just meet people that are so supportive. And it's so, you can't have a successful career in the entertainment industry without trying to make friends. And I mean, it's tricky for me. I'm someone that gets social anxiety, and I know a lot of people, a lot of artists, a lot of musicians have social anxiety, so it can be tricky sometimes. But yeah, just meeting people is so important to help build that sort of that little foundation around you, because as I mentioned, it can be really, really lonely, and it is nice to have that alone time, but it is also nice to sort of have that encouragement from the outside, just people saying, yeah, like, you're on the right path, you can do it, that sort of thing. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you watched it, but the Billie Eilish documentary.
I haven't, but I've been meaning to.
Watch it. It's amazing. And it gives you that idea of like her having the support of her family and the people around her really shows how like it kind of was like that moment as a viewer where you go, oh, thank God, like, she's in good hands. Because I feel like you watch so many young people come up and they don't have that support system. They don't have their parents. They don't have a great brother like Phineas. Like, you just think, thank God she's got that family unit to like, and a solid friend group where it's just like, she's in good hands. Thank God.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love watching them work together, Phineas and Billie Eilish. That's such a cool sort of brother-sister duo. I've almost got that. I mean, obviously it's not the same height, but like, as I mentioned, the fact that my sister plays bass is almost similar in a way. And that's the thing. My family's very musical, so that helps as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, well, I definitely recommend that you watch that.
I shall. Yes. What is it on? Is it on Disney Plus or something?
No, it's on Apple TV. So I had to buy like a subscription just to watch it. I swear you have to like, there's too many subscription things these days.
It's crazy. Especially being locked down. I mean, that's all we've been on. Hey, but it's a nightmare.
Also, I was going to say another potential recommendation. Have you ever listened to the artist Ezra Furman by any chance?
Ezra Furman? No, I haven't heard.
They do music for a TV show on Netflix called Sex Education, and they did like a lot of soundtracks for it. I was going to say, I feel like you would really enjoy their music, and I feel like it's kind of up your alley. I don't usually give people music to listen. Well, I do give people. This is a very specific artist that I feel like as soon as I heard your music, I was like, they need to listen to Ezra Furman. So I don't know. I hope you enjoy their music, and it
Absolutely,
wasn't
I'll
just
check
a
it out.
terrible shot in the dark. But yeah, it was amazing to talk to you. I've loved getting to know your musical background, and I'm excited to see where you go as an artist. I will
Me
be
too.
continuing to stalk you on your social media.
Go for it.
And yeah, keep up the good work.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's been a really, really great chat, and yeah, it's really, really great all the work that you're doing with artists. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Anyone do if I told them I got a crush on you? If I told them I got a crush on you.